everyone, welcome back to Language Friendly Classroom tips and training. We're on to session 4 today. Now, in your previous sessions, we've been talking about how to support your children with specific language impairment or an association deficit in central auditory processing disorders that struggle with information overload, meaning that the longer and more complex the information, the more difficult it is for them to understand it. We also spoke about auditory decoding deficits. And today we're going to speak about, we're sort of transferring our thoughts onto how to help these children understand written text, to get to a point of deep text understanding so that they're able to use the content of the text to analytically think and problem solve. The strategies that us as speech pathologists use and that work very, very well are metacognitive strategies for breaking up text in order to understand it properly, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Okay, so why use metacognitive skills? These skills are designed specifically to assist students who have difficulties understanding and recalling complex oral and written language. It assists students who present with auditory decoding difficulties, which are your mechanical auditory reading difficulties, as well as your dyslexias, in terms of it assists in reducing the content required to be read while answering questions or attempting to study or summarize. And it also has a huge significance in terms of assisting your general students who don't necessarily present with difficulties but want to get to a point of being able to more efficiently analytically think, because it enhances deep text understanding. Okay, so what do these skills entail? Well, it's a step-by-step analysis of the text, and what the students really, really love, and what sort of is an eye-opener for them when I'm working with them in groups or within therapy, is that once they've applied these steps and they get to a point of needing to answer questions or to summarize, they actually realize that through following through on these steps, they actually already are very familiar and we can recall a significant proportion of the text that they have read. But the steps, in terms of the metacognitive skills, they have to be followed through step by step. Okay, so let's turn to step 1. When the student is given a particular form of text to read, the first thing they need to do is to identify the main idea of the entire story or of the entire text. And they do this before they even look at the details or turn their attention to reading the text. So what is the main idea? It's the purpose of the text. So it's identifying why the author wrote the text and who it was actually written for. And there are clues to being able to identify what the main idea of the text is. And you can look at the title or the heading. You can look at the pictures if the student is lucky to have these provided for them. And you can look at the very first topic sentence of the entire text, or if this is not enough, the entire topic paragraph, because the topic paragraph or the first paragraph is always your introductory paragraph. So it tells you what the entire text or the story is going to be about. So for example, if you've got a film review entitled La La Land, a long film, and you've got a picture of the dancing beautiful couple next to it, from this alone, and we haven't even looked yet at the topic sentence or the topic paragraph, we can assume that this is going to be a movie review, that it's going to refer to the contents of La La Land, and we can probably assume or predict that the author felt that the movie was way too long. Okay, so after you have identified the main idea of your entire text, we then go to step 2. And the step 2 is to read through the whole text. And this is usually the step that the students love to skip because they don't, especially the ones who present with specific difficulties and your classic information overload, because this is the part that is really difficult for them. And they will be inclined, if they are not encouraged to do so, to step out, to skip out this step. So it's important to highlight to the students that this is this particular step cannot be skipped out on, because it's the part where you're actually reading for information. And while the student is reading through the text, I encourage them to use something called context clues. And context clues are used to identify meanings of unknown words. And this ensures that the text is fully understood while it's being read. Obviously, if there are unknown words or meanings of words that are unknown within a text, this throws the student off in terms of being able to understand or fully understand what the contents of the information is. Okay, so what is a context clue? What is a context clue? Okay, so, and how do we go about doing this? Well, when you find a word that you don't know, what I tell the students to do is they must read the sentence again in which the word appears. They should read the sentence before as well as the sentence after. And then what they're going to do is they're going to cover up the unknown word and use those 3 sentences to predict what word can go in that unknown word's place and make sense. And this will usually aid in predicting the meaning of the word. It doesn't always predict it completely, but it aids. And the other thing we'll do, it will create a sense of fluency for the students in terms of properly understanding the story while they're reading. Once the unknown meaning of the word has been predicted, I encourage them to write this meaning above the unknown word and then read the sentence again so that full understanding is obtained. Okay, within the 3 sentences that you will be reading in order to determine the unknown meaning of the word, context clues may also be provided in the following forms. They'll be first of all provided in the form of a definition or an explanation. So this directly states or explains the meaning of the word. So for example, below you can see a battery is an underlined container that holds the material to produce electricity. And in that sentence alone, the definition of what a battery is provided. A context clue may be provided in the form of an example. An example provides samples in the same category. So the unknown word, or let's pretend that the students don't know the meaning of what camping gear is. It goes on to say typically includes a flashlight, a first aid kit, matches, water, and a knife. So immediately now, just through reading on, the student is able to determine what the meaning of camping gear is. Context clues can be provided in the form of a synonym or an alternative word. For example, in the sentence, an electric current passes from one battery to another. And then in the next sentence, it goes on to say, this flow of electricity powers the flashlight. So the synonym for electric current is provided in the next sentence in the form of flow of electricity. And context clues can also be provided in the form of descriptions. For instance, we set up camp under a shady canopy of trees that hung overhead like a roof. So we didn't know the meaning of the word canopy, but from reading on we can see it hung overhead like a roof, which gives us an idea of the meaning of the word canopy. Okay, once the student has read through the entire text, inserted the meanings of unknown words above these words, and read the text again, ensuring that they fully understand the text using these context clues, the next step is to go back through the text again and highlight the keywords. And what I encourage the students to do is I encourage them to highlight the keywords in each paragraph in a different color. The reason for this is, first of all, it helps the child, particularly those with dyslexia, to clearly see the differences and the start and the end points of each paragraph. And each paragraph I obviously explain to them that it's about something different, so the colors help them to see this clearly. But the other thing it aids in terms of visual memory. When the child is required to be studying and making summaries. And colors always help to stimulate that visual memory to recall what was on the page. Okay, so I discussed with the students then what are keywords. And I say keywords are words that carry meaning, and I always use the analogy of that you can picture them in your head. So if you can picture it in your head, most of the time it will be a keyword. And I explained to them that keywords provide detail to support the main idea of the text and the main idea of each paragraph. So keywords, I say to them, keywords answer the questions who, what, where, which are your preposition words like in and out and above and behind, when, time words, and I discuss with my students what time words are: yesterday, today, tomorrow, before, after, now, later, anything that tells you when, how, and why. And then I always explain to them that no and not have to always be keywords because they're changing the complete meaning of the sentence from a positive to a negative. And then I explain to them how not can be hidden within words like don't, won't, shouldn't, couldn't, etc. When the students are going through the paragraphs and highlighting the keywords, I tell them to tackle each paragraph slowly, one at a time. Don't look at the text as a whole, take each paragraph on its own. Highlight the keywords, move on to the next paragraph, change your color, and do the same again. And try not to rush it, because as soon as the students start rushing, they start over-highlighting, which means they won't be able to see the important points, or they under-highlight, and the same will be true for this. Okay, so here on this page you can see examples of keywords. Have a read through. In point 4, I've used this as an example because it's actually from a mathematical story or problem-solving sum, where the child is required to collate their numeracy skills or their mathematical skills with their literacy-based skills. And what I do in these cases is I get the child to highlight the vocabulary or the keywords in one color, but the actual numbers of the sum in a different color, so that both sets of information are clearly visible to the student. And then after they have done this, before attempting to get their sum, I encourage them and practice with them to draw little pictures on their page, because this enables them to be able to decipher what is the actual sum. And I'll obviously go through with them the particular words, literacy-based words, within the sum that might give them clues or indicators to what the actual sum might be. If it's, for instance, quotient, dividend, specific words like that, more than, less than, groups of, that might indicate to you what kind of sum they could be dealing with.